And APB, American Protection Bureau, voted #1 best on Long Island for all your security needs. Call 631-390-9050. That's 631-390-9050. APB.
You need a body shop? You need engine repair? Auto Excellence, Collision Specialists, 631-261-6420. That's 631-261-6420. Auto Excellence. Jimmy, I gotta take a dump.
What?
No, I mean I need a dumpster.
Well, for all those needs, you need to call Big V Dumpster Rental, Long Island, New York, 631-900-DUMP. Elm Logistics, for all your logistic needs, call 631-299-3595. That's 631-299-3595. Elm Global Logistics, pride, performance, and partnerships.
Hey everybody, and welcome to another edition of Wrestling Remembered. This would be, I guess, our holiday edition. This is Bruce, and I'm here with the playa. And what a day, Joe. What's going on, guys?
What a day, what a day.
Straight out of Playaville.
Not Centerville, but Playaville, right?
Playaville, right.
Nice. So what's going on, guys? Hey, so what a day. What's going on with you?
Another big, exciting show last night. We had a huge holiday giveaway where it turned into being like 1 or 2 gifts, turned into be about 15 to 20 area businesses. So we gave a lot of prizes away last night. So needless to say, I have been busy as heck for the last 24 hours. But I'm saving some room for this. And, of course, the big show tonight at the 30 right here on Monte The Pharaoh YouTube channel. So I'm gunning for that title tonight.
Better watch out. And while we're on that subject, we've got the champion in the house, the 30 champion, the one, the only, the player, Benny Scala.
They broke the mold. Thank God, right?
Ooh.
That's why there's nothing left.
Right.
So, well, before we get started, we got to give a special shout out to the president of Thursday Nights. He's in the house. He's in the chat. We've got Beth Harper in the house, the one and only, well, the featured playmate.
The number one playmate, always.
And then we've got Loose Can in the house. What's going on, brother?
Loose.
Now,
Loose.
I got to ask, is Beth really a playmate? What's going on there?
Well, the players got playmates.
There you go. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Greatly appreciate it.
Yeah.
So,
Love it.
hey, Benny, how? I heard you had a friend of ours in the studio the other day. You had Sunny Beach there.
I had the one and only Sonny Beach, also the owner of APB Security on Tuesday night. What a great guest.
A lot of people don't know that about him. I mean, once he retired, he opened up that, and I mean, that is a huge company. He does security for celebrities, for you name it.
Right. Great guy. Lots of great stories. I mean, 1 hour is not enough, so I'm going to get with him and bring him back because we definitely need a return engagement.
Yeah,
wow.
He's a cool dude. I had the pleasure of meeting him a couple times. He's a good friend of the shows, and every time I go down to Long Island, he's been down there. And this past big event, he was actually at our table signing with Tony Atlas, so it was pretty cool hanging out with those guys.
Yeah, and one of the things I really enjoyed listening to him tell about was the fact that he's maintained a lot of these friendships over the years, which is really heartwarming because it's a rough business, and to be able to leave it and still have some good friendships intact, that's a really good thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nice.
Absolutely.
Now he's a proud sponsor of Monte The Pharaoh, right?
He sure is.
Nice.
Yep.
Good stuff. Thank you very much.
Yeah, he's a good.
Appreciate that.
Good dude. So so what a day. Yeah, you were telling us a great story about running into a wrestler, and why don't you tell everybody about that? I think everybody will appreciate that story.
Real quickly, yesterday as I was running around town collecting gift cards from your business, I became friends with a guy who is from Centerville, Iowa, who lives in Minnesota, and he just ironically, I never met him, but ironically, he was at a place I was getting a gift card yesterday, and he noticed me, and he noticed me from the show. And he was like, "Hey, are you What a Day Joe?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And he goes, "I'm JR Bonus." He was one half of the tag team, the Punishers, which was a big deal around these parts. Probably not well known in the Northeast and so forth, but he spent a couple of years on the road, enhancement talent, all that stuff. I don't know how he was enhancement talent, but I met this guy yesterday. He was about 6'5", about 280, built like anything. He runs a fitness company now, trying to do a thing with the. He's got a prototype for a new machine, and I'm going to have him on my show later on after the new year. So, great guy, small world, from Centerville, back in Centerville, lives in Minnesota, knew me from Facebook, watches Monte the Pharaoh. He loves the show, by the way, the 30 and Wrestling Remembered. So he may tune in today. If not, he definitely watches on the replay, but he is a Monte the Pharaoh fan. So a quick shout out to JR. Bonus. Thanks for watching, brother. Greatly appreciated.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, the Monte and the Pharaoh. We have fans all over the world. It's pretty cool. And I don't know if you guys saw it. I know Benny did, but we've got our Benny and I are on a shirt.
No comment.
Go figure. I posted on Facebook after 50-something years of looking at T-shirts and looking at thousands and thousands of T-shirts. Now my mug is on there, and they did it's a really good T-shirt. Really good.
It looks nice. It's just missing somebody. I don't know who it is, but
yeah,
we'll get you in there. We'll get you in there.
It's all good.
Yeah, you also have to send me the new graphic for the other show so I can get that on some stuff.
Oh yeah, cool. Yeah, I'll send you some stuff.
So
nice.
Talk about the Line Drive Baseball podcast. Yeah. You got to get a cheap pop in there, right?
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. Cheap pop.
No cheap pop. It's a great show.
Yeah, Line Drive coming right at you, baby.
Line Drive's a home run.
So, well, I think we're here to talk about wrestling. So, hey, Benny, you want to get us started here?
Why not? Hang on one second here. Pull up my handy dandy cheat sheet here. And so we're going to cover from December 18th through, believe, Christmas Eve. Let me just double check. Hang on for 1 second. Technical difficulties. Please stand by. Yes. All right. So on December 18th, 1964, 59 years ago, 3 days ago in Austin, Texas, Stephen James Anderson is born. And people are going to say, who dat? But Anderson later becomes Stone Cold Steve Austin, arguably one of the greatest performers in the history of professional wrestling. And I always marvel at the fact that they let him go in WCW. You could even see, as to me, at least in my opinion, and Phil's out there. I'd love to hear Phil weigh in on this. But even as Stunning Steve, when he was one half of the Hollywood Blondes with Brian Pillman. You could tell this guy was a star in the making.
Absolutely.
Stunning Steve, right? Stunning Steve, he was
stunning, yeah.
Wow, unbelievable.
But I mean, you could just the way his work and his interviews, and I mean, probably the best thing that ever happened to him was getting fired via FedEx by Eric Bischoff, who had a habit of doing that, I guess.
Just to mix it up a little bit, you just don't see those types of athletes / entertainers that stand out. They're breakout stars. You don't see that anymore. You don't turn on AEW and be like, oh, that guy's going to be a huge star, or, WWE NXT, that guy's going to be a huge star. They're so busy trying to manufacture these Stone Colds and The Rocks and all that. You miss that stuff, because Stone Cold was unbelievable how he built his character, and, just was probably I would say the leading role of Attitude Era, no doubt about it.
Luce is saying here that Pillman was the better talker of the two when they were together. I would actually tend to agree with that. I don't think Austin really, like we were talking, I mean, he was good, very good in WCW, but then he just took it to the stratosphere.
Yeah, well, it was that 316 the 316 when he came out with Jake the Snake. After that, he just took off. It's
I'll never forget that, watching that. Yep, I watched that live, and the look on Michael Hayes, or I guess was he called Doc Hendricks, whatever his name is.
Yeah,
but when the stun, he would look like he was stunned. I mean, he was like dumbfounded. Like, did that guy really say that? No. I mean, that just put him on the map, and he's been on it ever since.
Yeah, unbelievable.
The funny part is that shirt is still one of the top selling shirts to this day. That's 25 years later.
Unbelievable. Oh yeah. See, they don't make talent like that anymore. You have to manufacture it, and that wasn't manufactured. That was all his doing, and they ran with it, and it was lightning in a bottle. And bang, look at that. Well, to this day, big T-shirt seller. Unbelievable.
I guess Luce is a big Pillman fan, and I'm with you. I mean, that's another what if. Like, what if Pillman hadn't had that accident and he kept his nose clean? He would have been a megastar too. I mean, he was as it is, but he would have been right up there.
Oh, that feud he had with Steve Austin in WWF. I mean, the home invasion, the gun promo.
Oh my! You talk about like leading edge controversial. Like that was
like insane. Like that was television back then. That's 15 million viewers. Boom, right on the spot, right there. Unbelievable, unbelievable. They couldn't get away with that.
It was cutting edge. It was. They could get away with it back then. Right now, everything is so overly scripted, and everybody's worried about what the sponsors and what the woke world is going to say about everything. Is there going to be a problem with something? So,
I agree.
We talk about the fact that back then, routinely on a Monday night, 10, 11 million people were watching Monday Night Raw and Nitro combined. And I always say, where do those fans go? The thing is, those fans were used to watching television like what we just talked about with Austin and Pillman with the gun. And I mean, it's so bland and it's so tame now compared to that.
Yeah, it's just publicly traded company now. They got sponsors and the investors now that just, to be honest with you, I think they want that. They're just too afraid to go ahead and do that, because if they do this type of segment again, and if they do it right and they could do something like that, the ratings will go through the roof and everybody wins.
Right.
They got to change the rating of the show. To me, honestly, this is just an opinion. Raw's got to go back to 9 to 11 Eastern time to get off that 8 o'clock hour, because when they do that, even here in Iowa, it starts at 7. You get the little kids still up, so they're afraid to teeter with all that stuff. So they got to bring it back. What's old is new again. That's my new theme now. They got to make it 9 to 11.
Yeah,
they got to get back to that.
Are there any real controversial shows out there right now? I mean, back in the day, you had a lot of things that were cutting edge, but I'm trying to think. I mean, outside of maybe South Park, which is still out there, there's really nothing that's there's nothing cutting edge. And
Family Guy, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, well, that's
Fox
been Family Guy's been off the air for 10 years.
Yeah, I mean, even the reruns live on forever, and people watch them, and that's
because they enjoy that type of stuff.
Yeah, right. There's a market for that. I just don't understand. And this could be something for the 30 tonight, but that's probably a good reason why USA Network may lose Monday Night Raw. They want to go to a network where they could do what they really want to do, especially with Triple H and Shawn Michaels and those guys in charge of creative. I think that's an avenue they're probably exploring right now.
So awesome. So,
all right. Oh, looks like I'm up, huh? All right, here we go. December 18th, 1995. Medusa Maselli makes her return to Monday Nitro and shockingly dumps the World Wrestling Federation then Women's Championship belt into a trash can that was strategically placed, by the way. As we all know, wrestling is a very forgiving business. Medusa, who wrestled as Alundra Blaze in the WWF, gets inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2015. When asked why she did it, she said that Eric Bischoff made it a condition of her employment. Basically, back then, Monday Night Wars just started to heat up. I think Nitro was on fire at this point. I think the circus was still in town for WWF. It was pre-Attitude Era and so forth. And, Eric Bischoff asked Medusa to come out and do that skit. I mean, it wasn't, she wasn't going to get fired or anything, but of course she graciously did it because she went for greener money and all that stuff. And one thing that I did know about this is that she was adamant about her name change. She was called Alundra Blaze in WWF, WWE. And what happened was she emphatically, if you watch the video, she emphatically says she wants to be known as Medusa because that's her real name. That's the name she used all along until she went to that circus town back then called WWF. So that was one thing. The other thing that I found out about, and I remember this kind of sporadically, that this was a prelude to the Montreal Screwjob. This is why Vince McMahon prompted the Montreal Screwjob, because he was afraid that Bret Hart would have done the same thing. Now, really, less than 2 years later, 97 in Survivor Series, the Screwjob in November, and he was afraid that Bret Hart would have taken that title, the Winged Eagle Championship, to WCW. So this prompted that Montreal Screwjob. So Vince had it in the back of his head that he knew Nitro was, running and gunning, and he wanted no part of that. So that's, this was a prelude to the Montreal screw job. So I found that fact to be very, very interesting.
Yeah.
So
This was one of the things that set everything on fire for WCW to go to that next level. I don't even think they were winning in the ratings yet at this point, or they were about to start winning in the ratings.
yeah.
So
I think about the same timeline too. Like Lex Luger showed up on Nitro. Rick Rude did his double appearance because Raw was taped, and he showed up on our live Nitro. This is around that time, and all that stuff was going on.
Yeah.
So Vince was juggling a lot of things in WWF, and one of them was not letting that World Championship title go anywhere else. So.
That shock
good
value.
Stuff.
Medusa Michelli,
Shock
very,
value.
very underrated. I mean, I remember watching her back in the AWA era, and you knew she was gonna do something. And even now, she's still out there racing or driving her monster truck. So,
yep, she does it. She does book signings too. She wrote a book. I actually keep in touch with her via text messages now and then. She was in the area when I first moved here to Iowa. Ironically, she was up in Ottumwa, and I'm like, "How far away are you?" And I'm like, "I'm about 30 miles away." She's like, "Come see me," and I'm like, "We just moved here, so I didn't even know where Ottumwa was at the time." So, good stuff. She's a great lady, good athlete too.
I want to just weigh in and put my old timer 2 cents in here, though, that she was forgiven. She got inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2015, and so did Sunny. I'm trying to think where I think she got inducted in 2013 or so. Vince can forgive in certain occasions, but then you have an Ivan Koloff, and people, a lot of people say, well, he was part of that concussion lawsuit I think it was in 2015, and I get that, but I mean, here's my thing: is the first set of inductions was in '96, so why wasn't he inducted into the Hall of Fame? The poor guy died, I think, in 2018, 2017, 2018. With that, and the guy was a world champion in 3 different places. He beat Bruno, he beat Mad Dog Vachon for the Montreal title. He beat Dick the Bruiser for the WWA title. This is a guy who, in my mind, scored the most significant victory in the history of wrestling when he beat Bruno. Yeah. And yet this guy is not in the Hall of Fame. And it's just, to me, it's just a horrible shame.
I'm a big proponent.
Is he the only champion from, I would say, pre-2000 that is not in the Hall of Fame?
He might be, because I think Stasiak's in, I believe.
Sean did his induction, did his dad's induction.
Right. And who else?
Buddy Rogers is in there. Who do you got? Pedro's in there.
Yeah, Backlund, of course.
Superstar Billy Graham's in there. The thing that amazes me, you talk about a forgiving business. Come on, Ultimate Warrior. I mean, he burnt a lot of bridges.
Yeah, he helped us up for money.
And what about Bruno Sammartino? Everyone forgets all that appearance on the Phil Donahue show and the steroid era and all that stuff. And Superstar Billy Graham was part of that as well. They're in the Hall of Fame.
Right.
So my argument has been for the last few years why my favorite tag team growing up, Tony Garea and Rick Martel, are not in the Hall of Fame. Something's up there.
Yeah, Rick Martel.
Needs to be done.
I'm kind of surprised Rick Martel never got inducted.
Each of them on their own. I mean, Martel was the AWA champion, and then he was tag team champs with Tito,
Strike Force,
Garea. Yeah, and Garea was, I think, a 5-time tag team champion.
5 times with different partners.
What's the rationale when you put in like a Papa Shango or a Godfather or a Coco Beware? Not to say that they weren't good, but I mean,
you got to honor your past before you do anything. And this is, the first few years of the Hall of Fame. Yeah, Andre the Giant was the lone inductor when they first came around in '95. Then you got the George Steeles, you got the Lou Albanos, the Fred Blassies. It's like they honored that whole generation. And they skipped Tony Garea and Rick Martel. They skip Ivan Koloff. It's like, what, you got to honor your past, especially if you were a world champion and represented that company. I don't care if you represented the company like Tommy Wildfire Rich did for 7 days. You need to honor your past. And with all these legend contracts and everything now, I feel the same way, Betty. I think Ivan Koloff should be in there.
Yeah, but then
even a Patera, Patera. I mean, I could see maybe why they'd hold back, but they brought him back. I mean, they brought him back after he served his time. I mean, the guy paid his debt. He's never been back, at least as far as I know. He's never been back in jail. I guess he stays away from McDonald's now. But
and I also heard that Patera's been on podcasts saying that Vince paid him while he was in jail. So
Yeah,
it's
I've heard
something
that as well.
yeah, I don't know how true it is, but I've read that that's something that's been going around. So you never know.
Right.
It is a forgiving business. It is a business after all. So what's good for business is what the fans want. It's a fan based business.
Well, and the problem is though, like, the people who are asking for a Gurria, Martel, or Ivan Koloff are guys our age, and we're not really part of the typical WWE fan base anymore. And I think that's part of the problem. I mean, nobody, a 27-year-old kid or guy, they're not going to ask for Ivan Koloff unless they're related to the guy, or Tony Gurria. It's just sad that like Joe said though, they're really not properly honoring their own history.
Well,
Right.
it's kind of funny. We have a store there. It's a wrestling store not too far from here. Just it's Rock and Wrestling Connected, and it's amazing. I see kids under the age of 20 in there checking out all the old magazines. It's I would say that 20 to 35-year-old that they don't have any interest in that old stuff. Then you have guys like us that want to go back and relive that history and check it out. But don't forget, WWF, WWE, they have a history of always rewriting history to what they want at that time. I mean, I remember Andre the Giant was undefeated and never been slammed. And when I was a kid, I had no idea Pedro Morales was was a heavyweight champion, because they never talked about it. They always said Pedro, the former intercontinental great Pedro Morales. They never said anything about his world championship run. So
guy was champion for 3 years. I mean, for God's sakes.
Yeah, well, I will tell you, I didn't know he was champion until I got into my teens and I started to look back into history of wrestling. So it was kind of,
and whenever like a Harley Race or a Briscoe or a Dory Funk, Junior came into the territory, they would never say that this is a former NWA or even a current, because I think Harley came in when he was the champion. Yeah, and they would never even acknowledge that.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, I said that last week on the show that he had a couple of I'll say exhibition matches at Madison Square Garden, and there's Harley Race, and Finker is introducing him as the NWA World Champion. It's like, whatever. Like, really? These guy's wearing 10 pounds of gold. He's the heavyweight champion of the NWA, which basically is the oldest federation wrestling league around. And that's it. You're just going to put him in an exhibition match and put him on like first or second match. And it was weird. Very weird. You could see all that stuff on the old WWE Network, all the old Garden matches. It's just random stuff like that. Dusty Rhodes, even when he was in the NWA, he'd come back for a one-off match with somebody and be like, oh my God, the American dude, he just held the NWA title like a month ago, and now he's wrestling at Madison Square Garden for one night only.
Right.
Like, it did make sense. It didn't make sense at the time, but yeah, I know. It is what it is, I guess, at this point.
It worked for him. I mean, from a financial perspective.
So got to give a couple shout outs. We have the first lady in the house, Maria Davis. How you doing,
Maria?
And we have
Maria's in the house. All right, cool.
Monte and the Pharaoh are in the chat too. What's going on,
Monte?
Monte? So let's move on. We've got,
or as Mike would say, hey yo,
hey yo, hey yo.
Let's
hey,
go
yo.
to
Chico.
December 19th in 1999 in Washington, D.C., WCW Starrcade takes place at the MCI Center. In the main event, Bret Hart defeats Goldberg via disqualification when an errant kick by Goldberg connects with Bret Hart's head, causing him a concussion and effectively ending his career. Medusa defeated Evan Courageous to win the WCW Cruiserweight Championship. When your legacy is singing in a wrestling... What does this say? Singing in a
wrestling boy band
and losing to a girl, you suck. Nice one, Benny.
All right. So who out there? I mean, who's paying attention here? What was the name of the boy band that Evan Courageous was a part of, and who else was in the band with him? See who's like listening out there.
I can't remember.
Disco Inferno, and the group is called Tone Deaf. I don't know. I don't know.
Well, I'm going to wait a second here, but yeah, I mean, if you're losing to Medusa, and you're that's what you're known for, losing to Medusa and singing in a boy band, you really do suck. No, it was actually 3 Count is the name of the band.
Count,
yes. Oh wow, okay.
And the other two were Shannon Moore and Sugar Shane Helms.
Yes.
Shane Helms. Wow. Did they really sing though?
Yeah.
Who knows? I mean, they look good, but
Let's see. So
Was it a
let's
shooter or
talk
a
about the most important part about that day, which was Bret Hart and Goldberg. So
yikes.
so listen, I've seen errant kicks before, and we've seen things way worse than what happened to Bret in this. This was a culmination of a lot of things over his lifetime that led up to him, getting this concussion that ended his career. I'm not going to say it's that one kick that ended his career. We see bumps like that. We see mistakes like that. Goldberg apologized. I don't know. They worked together before that without a problem. I don't know. I just is.
Yeah.
Who really knows? I mean, geez, it's not like how many bumps to the head did Bret Hart take? I mean, maybe like he needed 100, and like Goldberg's kick was the 100th.
He grew up in the dungeon.
Right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Bret. But I mean, you're going to blame Goldberg for the last one, but it was just, I believe, a culmination of like a lifetime's worth of bumps in the ring. And by the way, you grew up in the dungeon, so I think it's, to a certain extent, at least I love Bret Hart, but I think he's whined about this for 25 years now. And I mean, now on the flip side, take a Bruno who had his neck broken by Stan Hansen, could have paralyzed him. Yeah. And one of the first things Bruno did was call Stan Hansen and say, "Look, I know, I know it was an accident. Please don't feel bad." And Hansen never. They were friends after that.
Sure.
And Bruno you never heard Bruno whining about it. Oh, I could have been so much more. If he'd had body slammed me. That's to me the difference between Bruno and Bret.
I mean, talk about Ivan Koloff. This is a guy who should have had concussion. Those steel cage matches with Bruno Sammartino were just, he was just putting his head through a fence the whole entire time. So if anybody had a concussion or should have had their career ended by that, should be Ivan Koloff.
Yeah, I also think Bret was at a point where he realized he was nowhere near as relevant in WCW as he had been in the WWF.
He was a fish out of water the whole time he was in WCW. Yeah. I think.
And Phil's on in the chat room talking crap.
Oh no, already?
Yeah, he says he's going to lay the smack down.
Oh, we got to start deducting points again. This is crazy.
I guess he's talking about so. Yeah, this is all of us. The 30 cruise is here right now.
Oh boy, they're all on. Oh, so we got some excitement build up for tonight. Okay, so they're trying to hijack the show. That's what they're trying to do.
Yeah. Maria, Bret Hart was great, but Bret hated to lose. Yeah, Bret hated to lose, even as a work. He did not like to lose, and he always liked to. Can you blame the guy? The guy took a lot of pride in his work and his character and how long it took to build it. So I kind of get that, but I just think he's really gained a reputation as being a whiner. I mean, he's pretty much trashed everybody, and just let it go, Bret.
And Phil just got an extra 10 points.
Oh, just like that. Unbelievable. And what about his infamous Hall of Fame induction during when he got tackled? Remember that? With Natalia? Him and Natalia were doing the Hall of Fame, and for some reason they didn't want to have a ring barrier around the ring. Do you guys remember that at all? I think that was during COVID or right after COVID or before COVID. It was on live TV. He was inducting somebody into the Hall of Fame, or Natalia was, and they tackled Bret Hart. You guys remember that?
Yeah, he looked very frail too. I remember thinking that, this is the Hitman.
Yeah, I don't know. A lot of pride, a lot of legacy in the Hart family. So, he probably thought he was the caretaker for that name. So carry on. So,
but I do think that maybe was Goldberg a little bit careless, yes, but had Bret taken a million other bumps, it was just the proverbial straw that broke the camel's back.
No,
you could have been at work for all we know.
Yeah, but they were working together for months before that. They had a bunch of matches. I would think Bret Hart, the legend that he is, and with all his not wrestling knowledge, he would have if there was a problem, he would have addressed it beforehand. Bret could out wrestle. It didn't matter how big Goldberg was. Bret Hart would have been able to wrestle him to the ground and hold him in how many different torturous moves that he was taught by his father.
Yeah, you talk about two different entities. Yeah, Goldberg was that guy who would have the 5-minute squash match against anybody. And then you have a guy like Bret Hart, who's a technical wrestler who can wrestle 65 minutes. So when you look at that, two entities coming together like that, for all I know, this could have been a work. And he was probably trying to tarnish Goldberg's reputation as a non-wrestler. So, you got to look at that angle kind of. But yeah, when you start doing stuff like this, these kind of works tend to backfire because now here we are talking about it later. And Bret Hart is still, technically labeled a whiner because he's really just complained a lot since the Montreal screw job when you think about it. So, oh well.
Well, listen, guys, we got to take a quick break. But when we come back, we're going to talk about an ECW legend.
The Monte and the Pharaoh Show is brought to you by...
Because wine is your second favorite 4-letter word. California wine, New York attitude. Good fucking wine.
Yeah.
Tired of that same old breakfast, lunch, and dinner? Same old tasting scrambled eggs, burger, that dinner steak, ribs, or pork chops? Why not add a little bit of spice or just a touch of heat to make the difference? Change that scrambled egg with a little bit of Johnny Fabulous's John Cena Sr.'s $1 Million Jalapeno Hot Sauce. Great on burgers, steaks, chops, and those barbecued ribs.
And Nitro's Garage for all your automotive needs. Call 646-675-2349. That's 646-675-2349. For all your automotive needs, Nitro's Garage. Ask for Jack.
Do you treat your dog as part of the family? Well, so do we. So why not celebrate your pup's birthday with the ultimate party box? Check us out on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Party Pup Info, and let us make your pup's party or any celebration perfection.
M&J Video Games and Collectibles. Sport and non-sport cards, wrestling items, autographed items. We buy, sell, and trade. M&J Video Games and Collectibles, located at 1049 Queen Street, Southington, Connecticut. Call us at 1-860-479-9223 or 860-93-GAMES. M&J Video Games and Collectibles.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Wrestling Remembered. I'm What a Day Joe, joined by the player, Benny Scala, and, of course, our boy Bruce, who's manning the controls today. He's doing a great job, by the way. So
Excellent
thanks.
job.
And thank everybody for tuning in. We got a lively chat today. This is
Oh,
good
yeah.
stuff here. I
Good
want to thank
conversation
Phil. We got everyone. Maria's in the house. I can't read my iPad. I don't have my glasses on, but Loose Cannon's here. Everybody's here.
Yeah, Crypto
Good
Critty
stuff.
Monster is a new new viewer here, and we're of course
Don't
Maria,
forget the Playmate. That's
Maria,
in the house
Phil,
too
Beth,
as well.
Yeah.
So thank everybody for tuning in. So all right, we lead it off. Yes, ECW legend. We're going to take it back to December 19th, 1998, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Sabu, the legendary Sabu, defeats Taz to win the ECW FTW Championship. Now, although Sabu was unconscious, Taz allowed himself to be pinned because he wanted to pursue the ECW heavyweight champion, Shane Douglas, and eventually Taz would win the belt later. Real quickly, the card wasn't bad. You had Nova pinning Steve Carino. This was at the ECW arena, by the way. Big crowd, 1,350 for ECW for this one. Tajiri pinned Antifaz del Norte. You got to love that name. Tracy Smothers and Little Guido beat the Amish Roadkill and Danny Doring. I remember them when Doring was pinned. Lance Storm, another great wrestler, beat Wolfie D and Rex King in a three-way dance. Spike Dudley, he defeated Skull Von Crush. That was a good one. Here's another great match. ECW TV champ at the time, Rob Van Dam, RVD. He pinned Balls Mahoney, the late Balls Mahoney, rest in peace. Bubba Ray, Devon, and Big Dick Dudley, they beat Mike Lazansky, Rod Price in the one-man game when Lazansky was pinned. And, of course, Sabu beat Taz and Just Incredible in a three-way dance to win the FTW title. And the main event was ECW champ Shane Douglas pinning Lance Storm. I went to my first ECW Armory matches. Well, I want to say it was in November. It was like maybe October of 1998. And what I remember coming out of that was I got front row seats. Wasn't hard to do back then because probably only 200 people packed the Armory. But one of my biggest memory is Sabu literally flying off the top rope, landing on my lap. And I was like, they're onto something here. This ECW's got something good going on here because they had a strong cult fan base. They had an obscure TV time slot. I think, I don't know how it was in New York, but I know back in Boston, you had to tune in at like 1 or 2 in the morning or something like that.
Here.
I remember I was a young kid, so I frequented the bars back then. And if we were open late, we'd turn ECW on. And I could just tell you what kind of night that ended like. So, good stuff. December 19th, 1998, Sabu. As we know, he tragically lost his longtime partner, Melissa Coates, due to, I do believe she had her leg amputated due to COVID and all that stuff. And she passed away a couple of days after her birthday. She was my age. We used to chat on Facebook a lot. She was a What a Day supporter. But she died June 24th. Her birthday was like the 21st. She died like 3 days later. Due to complications of COVID, but she went downhill really fast. And nobody knows this about Melissa, but she was actually a practicing registered nurse.
Wow.
So she had quite a background. She had a lot of chemistry background and all that stuff. And she was a bodybuilder. She was a model. You can Google her. She was built. She was not your typical prototype. I think she was influenced by China back then. So, that's my Sabu related story and all that stuff. So it was a good card though. At the ECW arena.
Yeah, you
guys have any thoughts on that?
Absolutely awesome card. You look at the legends that are in there and what they ended up becoming. Most of them ended up moving over to the WWE to become that superstar. But you could see at that point that cult following that little organization was garnering at that point. Yeah. It was crazy. That was really in the beginning when it was becoming the extreme.
Sure.
Extreme wrestling. So,
and Phil chimed in and was on at 1 a.m. on Channel 27 out of Worcester. That was like a UHF channel back then. It was like an obscure channel. I think I don't even think I got it clearly in on my TV at the time, but that's what time it was on. It was like 1 o'clock in the morning. It's crazy.
Do you guys think that they were pretty much doomed? I mean, it's the product was an excellent quality, and they definitely had a niche audience for it. But do you think there was something that could have been done maybe to prolong it, or you think it was just pretty much doomed to failure because the WWF was just too big for them?
Yeah, well,
I think. Go ahead, Bruce.
The WWF was actually using them as somewhat of a farming system, weren't they? Because they were,
but 98. We're talking Attitude Era, so
I thought Vince was giving Heyman money for quite a long period there.
I think at the very end, I think he was helping keeping him afloat.
Yeah, because it wasn't much longer. He bought ECW, and all of a sudden, Paul Heyman was on WWF TV.
Yeah, I had read. I thought I had read somewhere that he was behind the curtain, even earlier than when brought out.
I think the old adage comes into play, or it takes $1 million to make $1 million, and they were constantly just barely making money. They didn't have a solid TV rights deal at the time. They didn't get it was a cult following. It was kind of like an underground following.
Right.
Like, unless somebody wore that ECF and W t-shirt, you knew they were watching ECW. Other than that, you didn't talk about ECW like you did WWF or WCW. So I think, were they doomed from the start? I'd say no, because I think Heyman had a vision for the company, but the financial losses just continue to add up. And you can't, in that type of business, you can't stay underwater too long because you're going to constantly either finally tread water or you're going to drown. And I think that's what happened. The product was off the wall. I mean, the matches that we've seen come out of there, I mean, the barbed wire matches, the flaming table matches, you've ever seen the movie The Wrestler.
Oh, yeah.
Some of the matches he was involved in, that was all ECW based. Panes of glass stuff. Fans were involved. Francine, who's a What a Day supporter, you can see her video on my What a Day. She gave me a shout out. She went through a table. Nobody ever put a woman through a table back then. Are you kidding me? Especially from the top rope. I mean, they just did a lot of cutting edge stuff. He just didn't get the exposure that he needed to take it to the next level financially wise, because that's what keeps the company afloat.
Do you think they
And
could have kept going in the way they were going with as extreme as they were pushing it? I feel that they were very lucky that they didn't have a more crazy accident at some point.
well, they did have crazy accidents. I mean, I remember riots breaking out, fans fighting wrestlers. They had a lot of that stuff, and that's probably why they couldn't get into like a Boston Garden or places like that, because the insurance laws are just crazy. I mean, if you took an ECW match today, what arena would want to book that? Knowing what type of fans would come in, what kind of behavior has resulted from that, because some of these shows were violent. Like I said, I went to my first match at an Armory, and Sabu physically landed on my lap from the top rope. Yeah, did it hurt? It did. It was fun. It was exciting. I was part of the show for 30 seconds. But if you constantly do that and people expect it, the insurance and all that stuff and booking shows, that kind of creeps up on you. Be like, we don't think no fire matches tonight, or no, we don't want a lot of blood in the ring tonight. There's a lot of Hep C going around, and things like that. Would it survived if they kept afloat financially and had the promotion? I would say, yeah.
If they had Tony Khan money.
If they had Tony Conway, don't forget Paul Heyman was that scrawny photographer who snuck his way into Madison Square Garden. So he was working the business way before anybody else. You gotta look at it like that. I think towards the end he saw the light where Vince would probably end up by ECW, or at least the TV rights, because I think that's how it all started with Vince. He wanted ECW's TV rights, and then Heyman was just like, just buy the damn thing out and we'll just come on your show and all that stuff. But would they have survived if they had the money? If they had the money and the right promotional backing and a good TV time slot?
You mean
like Phil said, 1 o'clock in the morning?
If his father was, if he was related to Tony Khan, self-funding.
Right.
Yeah, of course.
Paulie Khan, yeah.
It takes $1 million to make $1 million, right? So, if you're going in already kind of breaking even or underwater, you're constantly. Yeah, I think towards the end he wasn't even paying people, right? I think Tommy.
No, I think he was bouncing checks and stuff like that.
Bouncing checks.
The old checks in the mail kind of deal.
Yep. Like I remember that last pay-per-view. There was a ECW documentary. He had to give that pep talk to everybody because they were worried that they weren't getting paid, and he still didn't pay them after the show because he was relying on the pay-per-view buys to get the checks in to then pay the wrestlers. So wrestlers are going there pretty much risking their lives because the stunts they were pulling were just death-defying. And then all of a sudden, you're not going to pay me tonight? Like, I had to travel here. I had to stay here. I had to get here for you.
Right.
That's demoralizing. I mean, would you want to go to work and say, well, we're not going to pay you this week, but can you come in early and work late? It doesn't make sense. Absolutely. No way to run a business. And I'm up again, it looks like, huh? All right, folks. Way. I like this one. December 20th, 2003, Baghdad, Iraq. Well, that's a tongue twister right there. Christmas from Baghdad at Camp Victory, which was later renamed Tribute to the Troops. In the main event, John Cena defeated the Big Show, but the highlight of the evening was Vince McMahon being stunned by Santa Claus, who was played by none other than Stone Cold Steve Austin. Obviously, we know this turned into Tribute to the Troops. This is a huge deal because obviously Afghanistan, the war was pretty much at its height right around then. The show actually aired. This show was actually aired on Christmas night, if anybody remembers that. Stone Cold as Santa stunning Vince McMahon, great. But everyone forgets what the real hoopla of that night was. And I did this research. Tori Wilson defeated Dawn Marie and Sable in a Santa's Little Helper outfit contest. And after the event, Wilson fought off Dawn Marie and Sable after being double teamed. The outfits, now this is kind of on the outskirts of the Attitude Era, don't forget, were very provocative and caused quite a stir with the military, mainly the men personnel in the audience. That was a huge thing. Obviously the stunner with Vince and Stone Cold was big, but this was no doubt about the biggest thing that happened that night was Tori and Dawn Marie and Sable in the Santa outfit match, the Little Helper outfit match.
they caused a pop of a different kind, I guess.
There you go. And and that was an outdoor event too, so it was warm over there at that time. So, I don't think the girls minded stripping down because it was pretty warm in that ring.
Okay,
But you have to give people knock Vince McMahon left and right for a lot of things, and he deserves some of that. That negative publicity, but you have to give him credit for this, giving back to the troops. He's done this on numerous occasions. He does support our military.
Oh yeah, he's very patriotic. I think he got that from his dad.
Definitely give him his props for that.
He's always been, Veterans Day. There's always a vignette film for Veterans Day. All the military type holidays. If Raw is on that night or SmackDown, there is some type of tribute for that. So you got to give him props for that. He always loved the military. He loved people that sacrificed. And that was his way of giving back. It was great stuff. I wish they'd still do that. I just don't know where because we're not in Iraq anymore. So,
all right, my turn.
Right, you're up.
December 20th, 2016. I waited all show for this. So AJ Styles gains revenge for previous humiliation suffered by James Ellsworth. Remember him? By soundly defeating him on a live SmackDown to retain his WWE title. To quote James Ellsworth, every man with two hands and no chin has a fighting chance. And he also had, with his two hands, unfortunately, he allegedly sent dick pics to underage girls. That's why we don't see. That's why we don't see Ellsworth anymore.
You got too famous, too quick. That's the problem.
Yeah, he was at the big show of that in New York City a few weeks ago that we went to, and he had his own little booth. And I can tell you, compared to the other lines, there wasn't one.
Yeah.
It went to his head, but the wrong head.
What was that storyline he had? He was with some girl. It was like almost like a odd pairing.
Carmella for a bit.
Was it Carmella? Yeah.
Yes.
And then that's right. It was Carmella, and that was I don't know that didn't look right to me at all. But
it
whatever.
Was hideous.
I always wondered though, did AJ Styles? Do you think he kind of regretted the storyline? I know it's all for the business and all this stuff, but AJ Styles seems like a world-renowned grappler. Traveled the world. He's the man's an innovative genius, and to have this type of scenario, I mean, it's got to hurt the reputation or the ego a little bit.
I'm sure that he said to himself, "Why me? Why did I have to do this?" But maybe he was just like he was one of the few people. It's like Bret Hart. What was the guy's name? Tom McGee. That they
Tommy McGee,
because they knew that Bret Hart could get a good match out of Tom McGee, and Bret Hart was the only one who could have gotten a good match out of him. Maybe it was the same mentality that. I don't know. AJ Styles can make anybody look good, so let's throw Ellsworth in there. And I mean, Ellsworth never looked good, but
they tried to spruce him up. I think they dyed his hair or whatever and put makeup on him. I don't know.
That's the proverbial putting lipstick on a pig.
Yeah, there you go. There you go, right there. You said it. The player with the quote of the night.
So let's move on to December 20th in 2020, where at WWE TLC, Randy Orton defeats The Fiend in a Firefly Inferno match, then sets the lifeless body of The Fiend on fire. Now, what can you say about this? Not a big fan of these gimmick matches, but this one wasn't the worst. This was a tough time during COVID just to present a product. So.
Yeah, they could only get away with that during COVID because it was all cinematic stuff then. I think I remember this clearly. I mean, I get the storyline, but it's like, okay, we're going to set a guy on fire and then end the show. Like, okay, this is weird. Like, where's the storyline and all that? You know what I mean? So I think Alexa Bliss was the birth of that Sister Abigail type thing.
I believe
born right now because she came out, she was all burnt or something like that the next day on Raw.
She
or
pours
the
like gas over herself.
Yeah. So, and of course, you can only get away with this during COVID because you had a cinematic thing going on. Just like Matt Hardy's match with Bray Wyatt was a cinematic masterpiece in my mind, or The Undertaker and all that was a masterpiece.
See,
COVID, they excelled during COVID.
But that's a different way of presenting wrestling. Why doesn't somebody do something like that? It doesn't have to necessarily be what we're seeing in WWF, but WWE, everybody's trying to emulate everybody and one-up everybody. Look at how great those things were, especially when you can film them cinematically and make a move look that great or show different sides of the same view or the same move. So... No, I absolutely. I think that that was a unique time, and it showed what's possible. I'm very surprised nobody has jumped aboard and done something, even if it was like a regular TV show, and that was just part of it.
Well, I think Tony Khan's trying to do something with that with Tony Storm. The silent era type thing. That's cinematic. That's probably the only cinematic thing we can see right now in wrestling is her entrance. Every time they show her, it's in black and white, and it's old film footage and stuff like that. So That to me, that's the most cinematic that I've seen. But let's not forget, during COVID, you watched it because they had the audience. It was a captive audience. Nobody was going anywhere. Everybody was still restricted in some way, shape, or form, or couldn't go to arena. So what do? God bless you there, player.
Thank you.
And so you gotta look at it like that. Why they didn't capitalize? Well, they did capitalize because AJ Styles Undertaker, that Buried Alive match or whatever it was called, was unbelievable. You talk about taking cinematic to another level. That was just great. But I would definitely say lighting the Fiend on fire probably shocked everybody at the time. Like, whoa, like what's going on here? But you could only get away with it now. I mean, back then during COVID, you couldn't do a stunt like that now unless it was cinematic footage and they were backstage or out in the parking lot or something like that.
Yeah, it couldn't happen in a live arena.
No way.
So let's fast forward.
Unless you're ECW.
So let's go to December 21st, 2015. WWE presents the Slammy Awards on an episode of Raw. Seth Rollins wins the Superstar of the Year, and the Usos win the Tag Team of the Year. Well, let's see. Seth Rollins, he's not quite as over as he was. Well, he's as over with the fans, but he's not. His place in the pecking order seems to have dropped a few notches there. Whereas the Usos, they're still on top of their game, and last year they could have still been a Tag Team of the Year, and now we got main event Jey Uso, and I think the sky's the limit for those guys.
Yeah, Seth Rollins is Superstar of the Year 2015. Didn't he just started branching out on his own after the Shield breakup and all that? Roman Reigns. I think they were trying to push Roman Reigns before Seth Rollins. So to me, I'm a little dumbfounded by the Superstar of the Year Slammy Award for him.
So this was I wasn't really watching at this point, but I remember little bits and pieces.
Sure.
Yeah, Seth Rollins. Wasn't this when they initially went to push Roman Reigns and the fans went against him, and then
oh yeah, it was right about this time. It was Vince McMahon's technical 5-year plan that's now taking place, ironically, without Vince being there. So yeah, I remember going to the arenas. I remember watching the pay-per-views. I think didn't he win the Royal Rumble like twice or something like that, or something to that effect, where, oh my God, we got another Roman Reigns, Brock Lesnar match or whatever it is. People they weren't having it. They weren't having the Roman Reigns like they do now. Obviously they struck pay dirt with the bloodline scenario and all that stuff, but it's not pushing. Don't forget, this bloodline storyline is more or less more than Roman Reigns. It's centered around him, yes, but you have, the Usos, you have Solo Sikoa, you got Heyman, you have all these other entities that are sprucing it up. Back then in 2015, it was Vince McMahon pushing Roman Reigns, period. That's it. We're going to put him out there. And the guy, it was backfiring. He was being booed as a good guy. And then when they tried to make him heel, he was cheered. So it was like this back and forth. It was a weird time in WWE 2015 because I'm still dumbfounded by the Seth Rollins Superstar of the Year award back then.
I remember when it was Cena and Reigns had a face-off, and I guess Roman forgot his lines, and Cena made some kind of crack about it. He said, "It's a promo. Like you need to learn how to do this, like right in the middle of the ring."
Oh, geez. Yeah.
But I mean, Reigns has come a long way since then.
Oh yeah. Obviously him winning the title and, my name is Joe and I have leukemia. That struck.
Oh God,
I think that was the turning point after that. I think that's when they started doing I want to say back then is when they said, when he comes back, we're going to rebrand him, so to speak. And I would even say that the bloodline philosophy was probably starting to take place with the writers and stuff back then, because what they're doing now, Roman Reigns, this is what they were trying to do back in 2015, but he didn't have the characters to do it with. He was by himself. He was a former member of the Shield, and I think they even tried a quick. They had on the WWE Network was in full swing then, and they had one night they went live to an arena where the Shield reunited. Dean Ambrose, Seth Rollins, and them three, and it was like this cutting edge. We're going to interrupt, everything and go to this card, and it was another attempt to get Roman Reigns over again. And it just didn't work then. I don't know what it was.
They even used The Rock, didn't they? Like to try to get him over?
Yeah. Well, that's going to be, I still think The Rock's going to be involved at WrestleMania somehow. This bloodline family feud is going to have to end with The Rock somewhere involved there. And it's going to have to be him and Roman Reigns at some point. Maybe WrestleMania. I don't know. But I think down the line, The Rock's going to have a say in this.
Did I read somewhere that they signed another member of the family somewhere, one of the younger cousins or something?
Is it Jacob? No, I forget. I read that too, Bruce. They got another guy. What's it? Fatu, I think, is his last name of all things, or Hanoi. It's one of those two. Probably a cousin or a distant relative of something. But yeah, they want to expand on this. There's no doubt about it.
They're going to have their own wrestling company themselves. I mean, you could give them their own show. There's enough of them.
No, I agree. I agree. And they could. That's a great storyline. And I think it was the Usos or whatever, or Michael Cole even mentioned that, if there was Emmy Awards in wrestling, the Bloodline should get it.
Yeah.
Legitimately. I mean, they're on Fox, they're on a network, they're entertainers. That storyline, that had me going. I was like, oh, what's going to happen now? What's the deal with Sami Zayn and Jake? The acting in that is as easy as us to say, oh, they're putting on a good show. It's tough to act like that. So, kudos to these guys and the writers and everybody involved with this Bloodline storyline, because they got it going on with that storyline. So,
was not a Sami Zayn fan. I'm still not a Sami Zayn fan, but man, what he pulled off there in that Bloodline, he had me rolling, and how many times he shocked me.
Yeah. All right, looks like I'm up here, huh? December 22nd, 1997 in beautiful Macon, Georgia. That sounds like Nitro's backyard, huh? WCW, in yet another flash of brilliance, spends the first half hour of their Monday Nitro show having the NWO, change the show set to the NWO theme. This results in a 25% loss in the viewing audience. This occurred 6 days before the biggest pay-per-view in company's history. The episode ends with Hulk Hogan getting a severed head of himself as a Christmas present. Doing some research on this, I've heard nothing but horrible reviews on this whole situation. And it's all based on, I think this is where Eric Bischoff was kind of like, we're doing this no matter what, even if it fails type thing, because quote unquote, they have here, WCW transformed Monday Nitro into NWO Monday Nitro for the second half of the show in real time. Turning the show into NWO Nitro should have been an instantaneous thing, but we are forced to watch them physically dismantle the set, hand out NWO crew t-shirts to everybody, hang new signage for like a half an hour with nothing happening. Nobody from WCW steps up to try and save this whole thing. And quite frankly, it's like watching paint dry. I don't know if you guys seen this video, but it's boring as can be. It's like sitting there watching guys work on your roof. Okay, they're going to rip the roof apart. They're going to rebuild it, and that's it. That's exactly what the NWO and Eric Bischoff did. And it's no wonder. I'm shocked that it was just a 25% rating loss. It probably should have been more.
Yeah, this is when they were shooting themselves in the foot at that point.
Yep. And another point here, no one understood the point of it because the NWO was taken over. This was the height of the Eric Bischoff, Larry Zbyszko feud for control of Nitro. So what was stopping the NWO from just taking control before? So that storyline nipped the bud. So it was like Bischoff was basically rolling the dice every week to try and beat WWE and all that stuff. And this one just ultimately backfired. I mean, this was horrible. I mean, if you've seen the YouTube videos, it's horrendous. It's horrendous.
So let's go on to December 22nd in the year 2000 in Chattanooga, Tennessee. At a Raw is War taping, Raven, a.k.a. Johnny Polo, a.k.a. Scotty the Body, a.k.a. Scott Levy, defeats Steve Blackman, who went by no aliases, to win the WWF Hardcore Championship. This was the first of his 27 reigns with that title. Well, wow. Let's face it. He shouldn't. In the real world, there would be no way that Raven beats Steve Blackman. Steve
Blackman only lets he has to let you defeat him.
Yeah,
Blackman, because
not a big fan of Raven. I think at this point, I mean, his career was winding down. Really, right after WCW, you could just see he was not what he was in the ECW era, or even in the WCW era. He was a shell of himself. Never got back to that level in WWF that he attained in those other organizations.
Yeah. The illustrious Hardcore Championship, which actually manifested itself years later into the 24/7 Championship. So
The 27 reigns, probably maybe 33 days.
Yeah, exactly. How many times did you see it change hands several times on one episode?
On one show, right?
In one
Yeah.
segment. Actually, in one segment, how many times did it change hands?
I mean, not for nothing. It is entertaining because it gives viewers something to look at in between. That would have been a perfect time. I know it was back in the day before picture in picture, but you got to admit, if they went picture in picture, they could have filled every single commercial slot, through the ads on the left, and just showed, the Hardcore Championship being defended, one lost, and by the time they got back, the commercial was over. They were out of the arena and then on to your next segment or whatever.
They had one new champion and seven former champions.
Yeah. And then you could have had a statistic last night the Hardcore Championship was defended and lost and won 50,000 times.
Right.
It's a record-setting Raw here, so stuff like that. They could have used it a lot better.
Michael Cole had to use the men's room and he won it, and then he lost it on his way out.
Wasn't that one of them? Didn't that happen? Something like that?
It must have.
Somebody was in the men's room and they come out and the other guy taking a leak was a referee in disguise. It was they had some of the craziest concepts. Whatever. It is what it is.
So looks like it's back to you again. What a day.
What a day. I'm not even going to pronounce this city in Japan, but 12/23/62, Kenji Muto is born. He's known to the world over as the Great Muta. He would wrestle for over 38 years and was a force to be reckoned with wherever he went. And on January 4th, 1993, he defeated Masahiro Chono at the Tokyo Dome to capture both the NWA World Heavyweight Championship as well as the IWGP Championship. I can be honest to say I think I saw Great Muta wrestle maybe on TV a handful of times. Great talent. Obviously, the NWA is synonymous with Japan. We've talked about it weeks over. Anytime it was a Japanese storyline, somebody would win it and so forth. Of course, who can forget March 15, 2023, when the Nature Boy Ric Flair inducted the Great Muta into the Hall of Fame, which, by the way, was a very strange. This past year with the Hall of Fame was weird. They put that list together so last minute. There weren't any leaks on who was going in. I think Batista was supposed to go in, and he didn't because he had a movie to film or something like that. It was very strange this year, going back to the spring, with the Hall of Fame and all this. But the Great Muta was one of the highlights of this year's past induction Hall of Fame. So congrats to him. But
great wrestler. I remember his rivalry with Sting in WCW.
Yeah.
Just those matches are always solid gold.
I loved him in WCW. I was a kid at that time, and he just was so unique. I had heard of Kabuki with the Mist, but Muta was the first one that I got to see use the green mist. So it was pretty crazy. Really enjoyed him. Great performer.
Yeah,
Many
all
years.
Right. Moving on now, 12/24/2000, Essen, Germany. Claudio Castagnoli, who wrestles under his given name in AEW and by Cesaro and WWE, makes his professional wrestling debut for West Side Extreme Wrestling. Now, I did a little research on Cesaro, or Claudio, we should call him. We have all known him by his current birth name, but some of the other names he used, you guys hear some of these names he used to use? Antonino Cesaro was one. Castaglorious is a play on his name. Double C, Claudio Castagnoli. He did a Japanese gimmick called Taneshi Takami. And then, of course, this one I didn't understand. He was once called and billed as the very mysterious ice cream. But one of the notable ones I loved here is he also had a tag team partner with fellow Swiss grappler Ares, and he was known as the Swiss Banker. And the tag team was called Swiss Money Holding. So you got to love that. Right. And Ares is married to Allison Danger, who is the sister of Steve Corino. So Claudio Castagnoli is the brother-in-law of Steve Corino. So I did not know that. So that was interesting stuff there. That was pretty cool.
Great talent. I mean,
he was a good guy.
I think WWE could have did a little bit more with him. Maybe, giving him.
Yep. What was that tag team? Him and Sheamus, that Mankind. Mick Foley put them together because they were feuding at the time. And Mick Foley's, why don't you guys team up and do something? They finally teamed up, and they played that role well, and they became tag team champs.
They were very good.
Yep.
Yeah, he's one of those guys that, back in the day, like back in the, say, the 70s,
Yeah.
he would have been managed by like Lou Albano or the Grand Wizard,
Yeah, he
because
definitely wouldn't have spoke.
they would have compensated for his lack of mic skills.
And he's pure natural athlete. He's very strong. Very, very strong.
Scary.
Yep. So a great athlete. AEW's got. I hope they do something good with him. I hope that. I know he's in the full, whatever that club is, with Daniel Bryan and all those guys, Bryan Danielson. But I think he needs to, branch out more. I know he was Ring of Honor champ for a while there, so I think he needs to branch out. They can do some stuff with him if they use him right. It's up to Tony Khan at this point.
Right.
So
I agree.
So moving on to December 24th, 2001. On the Christmas Eve edition of Raw, Tori Wilson defeats Stacy Keibler in the first ever eggnog match. Hopefully it's the last one we'll ever see, too. In the main event, Chris Jericho defeats The Rock and Kurt Angle in a triple threat no DQ match to retain the undisputed WWF Championship. Oh, wow. What an era. Chris Jericho still relevant today. At that point, a world champion, and at this point, still a world champion. You got to give him a lot of credit. I mean, he has slowed down the past year, but man, that guy's done it all. I mean, him and The Rock probably are the two that have done the most outside of wrestling. Between being a best-selling on the Billboard charts, and he's produced so many shows. He's acted. He's done everything. He's done everything too. He's chased his dreams and done it. And
look at all the Hall of Famers. You just mentioned all these Tori Wilson and Keibler, The Rock, Kurt Angle. They're all Hall of Famers.
Everyone.
It's just some of it. Wasn't this a time when he had both titles, the big gold and the other title? Was that the two title type thing? They called it the undisputed WWF champion, but it was actually two belts.
Still had the two belts, I believe. Yeah.
Yep. I remember him. Didn't he? He won that at Safeco Field, right? During WrestleMania, was it?
I don't remember where, but it was kind of funny how Chris Jericho, when he came in, they weren't as high on him. They were making him wear the lifts and stuff like that, and then a year later he was defeating Triple H for that undisputed to unify the titles there. So
So I wonder when Tori Wilson, when she defeated Stacy Keibler in that match, did she say acknowledge me?
I knew you were going to say that. I just had a feeling you were going to say that, Benny. I just had this.
I'm getting predictable. Jeez.
I know,
I'll have to call up my friend Johnny Rods and have him give me some more unpredictable lessons.
Yeah. That was a very egg-citing match, by the way.
It was, yeah. It was extra special, yeah.
What is it?
They were both nogging each other around, right?
Yeah. What is it with WWE and eggs? It's like,
I don't know. It looks good. It's slapstick comedy. It's Three Stooges.
Gobbledygooker.
Yeah. The God.
So listen, hey guys, listen, we're just about out of time. So another great.
Wow, that was a quick show, huh?
Yeah,
man. It goes too. Time flies when you're having fun.
Thank everybody for tuning in. Greatly appreciate it. Lively chat today. So thank you.
Oh yeah, plenty of chat. Thank you guys for that.
Yep.
So, and don't forget to check out in a couple hours when we go after Phil's title.
Yeah, I think there's a comment from Phil in here.
After Benny's title. Benny's
right. Phil has a comment that says, "God bless you, Benny." It's like, maybe count the remaining time you're the champion because I'm coming after you. Well, you guys are too.
So Benny's the champion. That's right.
I
got booted in the first round last week. That's right.
Yep.
That's
all right.
Four-time champion.
Four-time.
All right. So we'll have to have a scientific match if we go one-on-one tonight. We'll have to treat each other. Maybe we'll do the Bruno Larry Zbyszko angle. What do you think?
Bruno versus Hans Mortier.
So I'd rather be Otto Wands.
So is the Pharaoh coming back tonight? I've heard of some rumors.
Oh yeah, that was mentioned last week, wasn't it?
So go ahead, Benny.
You'll have to take them off the Where Are They Now, and then you'll have to concentrate on the other three.
Sounds good, but yeah. So I believe on the main show tonight that they've got Justin Credible on.
Nice.
Justin Credible, nice.
Good guest.
Nice.
So that should be fun. So tune into that at 9 p.m. Tune into The 30 at 8 p.m. And don't forget to watch all the other shows on the network. And hey, Benny, why don't you plug what you've got going on this week?
Yeah, so we had great guests. We talked about before, Rick Allen, a sponsor actually of Monte The Pharaoh. I was actually on a show. It won't come out for a couple of weeks, but it's with a a guy named Andy the Taxman. It's called, the name of the podcast is Grappling with Canada, and I was invited on due to a story I wrote for Pro Wrestling Stories about Ivan Koloff. And we had a really, really nice chat, and I'm really looking forward to it. Should be out, I believe, right around the 1st of January. Looking forward to that. Yep. And then got the next true crime episode, which is in the works, is on Whitey Bulger. Nice. And I think it's going to take maybe another week or so, but it'll be worth waiting for. And then Joe and I are going to resume next week, I believe, with the Line Drive baseball podcast.
Yeah, we got a full week next week. Line Drive podcast.
Yeah. I'll be in Minnesota, but I'm bringing my laptop. So,
you're going to be close to me then. Maybe you should drive down to Centerville, man.
How far is Minneapolis to
I don't
Centerville?
know. We'll have to Google it. But JR Bonus, the wrestler I ran into, lives in Minnesota, so he comes down here all the time. So
all right, maybe I can hit your ride with him.
Can't be too far, so that'd be great. Awesome, good stuff. I'll be on to 30 tonight, gunning for the title. I'm coming at you.
Yeah, Joe. What do you have coming up on What a Day in Centerville next week?
What a Day in Centerville. Probably the hangover from last night, giving all those goodies away. 15, 20 gifts. We gave away over $500 worth of prizes.
Yeah,
so
great.
I'm still delivering them as we speak. What a Day in Centerville every Wednesday night, 7 o'clock live on Facebook. That's Central Time, 8 o'clock Eastern Time. Tune in. I have people from all over the U.S. tuning in. Benny, the player, he tunes in from Newport Richie, Florida. We have the NFL Four Horsemen marquee match or prediction show. That's always a good take. And like I said, we'll be back here with Wrestling Remembered next week, as well as I'll be back on the 30 next Thursday, as well as tonight. So it's
listen,
busy.
Everybody,
holiday.
Yeah, everybody have a happy holiday. Thank you guys for watching and tuning in. And why don't you take us on out of here, Benny?
Yeah, come join us next week, and everybody be safe, but have a great Christmas.